And then like you see a video of like some left-winger celebrating it, as I'm sure so many of you have seen. And it is so easy to like fall into that darkness, man. He's exercising free speech and gets murdered for it. Don't do something stupid and senseless and violent in response to this. That only is going to lead to more, and that's only going to make the situation much, much worse.
Dave Smith just weighed into the recent assassination of Charlie Kirk, and in this clip, he explains how not to react to that recent tragedy. He also gets into some of the preposterous responses from both sides of this, and how to steer clear of the dark forces that could lead society in a bad direction. So let's get his take on this. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
But there is, like, I guess you just can't get away from like the symbol of the whole thing, right? Like on its very face, here's Charlie Kirk is doing this, you know, like he's doing what he always does. I assume, I haven't seen video from the thing, but he's doing the like change my mind, or I guess that was Steven Crowder's thing, but he essentially the same thing, right? I will sit here and at this institution of higher learning, we will have an exchange of ideas and achieve the truth through debate. And if you disagree with me, you come up here and challenge me, and then I'll respond to you. And it's like this exercise in free speech, and then getting sniped out like that. Like, what a just powerful and like profoundly disturbing little like snapshot of where you're at as a society. And, you know, it's pretty black and goddamn white, you know, to see some of the people who are like equivocating between the thing. It's like, no, that's pretty damn black and white, actually. Actually, the person who's going, let's have a battle of ideas and I will answer all challenging questions, is the good guy. And the person who murders the husband and father in cold blood for the crime of discussing ideas is the bad piece of shit who needs to be fucking taken care of. And like, God damn it, if you don't have that level of moral clarity, then what the hell else are we ever talking about?
Yeah, well said. He really said it all. That's what this was. That's what we should encourage as a society, as a culture of a people living amongst various different ideologies and factions, to have debates out freely without the use of violence. And then he got shot anyway. And, you know, if you don't come down on the side of, you know, this was a preposterous, vile, abhorrent murder with no justification, if you don't come down on that side of it, I think you're lost morally. You have no moral compass. So I think Dave's just completely right about that, regardless of how you feel about Kirk. I promise you, I would be saying that if it was some left-wing influencer too. And guess what? There's a lot of things that Kirk believes that I don't believe. But that has no bearing on the fact that he was a father. He's going to, you know, he's leaving behind a family with 2 young children that will never know who he is. And that is just the sickest tragedy about this whole thing. They were young. They won't know now.
So there's that. And, you know, it's kind of it's amazing. It's like the most simple of tests, like the most basic, simple of tests, you know, like, it's like if you were like if you were with somebody and you were considering, you know, settling down and starting a family, you might, you know, you're like, I think we're going to get married and we're going to have some kids. And then like the test was, I don't know, like, do we both agree that we should not violently abuse our kids? You know, you'd be like, this is like the most basic test of like you cannot even entertain any more about this conversation unless we're both on the same page about this very simple aspect. And it's like, when something like this happens, the test is really simple. Like, is your reaction just like, oh my God, this is horrible and we can't have this in our society? Or do you have anything at all else to say? Anything. And I don't care. That includes just going like, now, while I don't agree with Charlie Kirk on his issues, you know, like, I don't care. There should be no qualifier. No qualifier whatsoever.
Yeah, that's right. There's no doubt about that. That's the simplest and most basic litmus test to deduce whether someone is wearing a moral character around them or that they've just succumbed to demons if they don't have that standpoint. That is the truth. I have to agree with Dave on that, you know, regardless of where you stand. And I've seen many people come out with good reactions to this. Some people have used it as kind of political capital, as a propaganda tool to call this gun violence, like AOC did right away to try to, leverage this tragedy in her favored political direction. But by and large, there have been good responses. There's also been some bad responses on both the left and right. You do see influencers on TikTok saying, well, I'm glad he's dead. I'm laughing about it. This is good. He sure did ask for it. You see MSNBC with those clips that said, oh, hey, it might have been a Charlie supporter shooting a gun in celebration. Yeah, that's what did this. That's why MSNBC has completely failed and people are flocking away in record numbers. Another anchor suggested, well, he's just a hate speech monger. And that's why he deserved what he was getting, essentially. His argument literally boiled down to that. Well, that's laughable, and that's why no one pays attention to you anymore, except for, older boomers generally. I know there's some exceptions to that. You're going to let me know in the comments, I'm sure, based on previous videos. But generalities are that Americans are discarding that garbage.
Goddamn psychotic barbarians. Like, who the fuck thinks this is okay? And then to get into like, well, he wasn't for gun control, or well, he wasn't for this. It's like, okay, we're not having a political conversation right now. We're having a spiritual conversation, and you're possessed by the devil. You are evil. This is not a political debate anymore. When you see that video of Charlie, and you see how real this shit gets, the thing that we should come together on, and the thing that we do still have somewhat of a choice in here, is that, like, we do not want to go down this path. This is a very, very dark path. And there's a real danger of escalation after this shit here, man. You can't just do this and think that, like, the other side is incapable of responding in kind. And like, this is a really dangerous path. But like, I would just say, like, as to the extent that I have any influence over people, like, my only message after something like this is, like, calm down, everybody take a breath, and don't do anything stupid, and don't do something stupid and senseless and violent in response to this. That only is going to lead to more, and that's only going to make the situation much, much worse. And I hope that that's kind of like the message that most people have. I already see some of.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I couldn't agree with him more on that. And that's why some of the responses I've seen from, like, Alex Jones coming out an hour after the death was announced and saying something like, well, the Democrats killed Kirk today. That's the leading story. This is war. You see libs of TikTok make that argument. Christopher Rufo saying essentially enough is enough. The backlash that could come from this would not be pretty. Handing over the propaganda to the government to expand and create a censorship regime, outlaw political parties, step to those lengths. This, treating this as a new Reichstag fire could be disastrous. You need to learn the lessons of the past, how 9/11 was twisted against the American people when they said it was the fault of the terrorists. We got the DHS, the Pentagon, endless wars, etc. By saying this vast swath of people, this abstraction is reason we have to do this. Well, I see some calls today for saying, like, this is the left. It's the left that shot Charlie Kirk. Like, just dividing the American populace down the middle, 50-50 percentage-wise, and saying that it's the left. That is so dangerous. And Trump didn't help his case, by the way, by going on air and saying the radical left killed Charlie Kirk. I very much fear a right-wing reaction to this. It wouldn't be pretty, so I'm with Dave. Take a deep breath and don't blame those who aren't culpable, or an entire political sector of the country, some of which include your neighbors.
These some of the kind of right-wing accounts, like, kind of, just people doing stuff, which I understand. Believe me, I understand. Like, I'll try my best to make this clear, but, like, I get the temptation. I saw people, like, sharing the Andrew Breitbart video, that badass video where he's like, war, and, then the music kicks in and stuff. And it's like, all right, I get the temptation, but, like, let's think about that, because I don't think that's the message that we want to send out to people right now. Like, obviously, we want justice for whoever did this. We want to figure out what the hell happened here. We want all the answers, but, like, nothing's going to bring Charlie Kirk back or fix, his destroyed family right now. So, like, that's not actually the route that you want to go. And I remember, and I kind of feel this way. Well, I mean, I'm not saying I feel the exact same way in these situations. I'm saying I feel right now like there's a temptation to sink into what I believe really is kind of like a dark force. I say all of that to just say that I think there's a similar type of thing when something like this happens. There's like this temptation to get angry. And man, is it fucking easy to get angry. Is it easy to get angry? I mean, you look at like, you all you got to do, because like anyway, just like to complete the thought here is like from the beginning to now, it's like I'm saying like you did know Charlie Kirk too. To many of you guys who loved him, like that is somebody who you loved and who you knew and who you just watched like publicly executed in cold blood when he never did anything, like with being guilty of no crime. And then like you see a video of like some left-winger celebrating it, as I'm sure so many of you have seen. And it is so easy to like fall into that darkness, man. And I understand why some people do, because it's so easy to. It's so easy to go like, they kill someone you love, and then they're sitting there celebrating it. Like, what, motherfucker? I mean, what's the right response to that? And it's very easy when you start going down that path to start coming up with what you think the right response to that is.
Yeah, totally right. This is so correct, and you do see this. I worry about that impulse, and like Dave, I understand it. It's a very human impulse, especially for people that were close to Kirk, his friends, his family members seeking vengeance. It's the most natural thing to humanity. But the lessons of history show us that when we act impulsive toward these things and blame entire swaths of people for it, and make them the scapegoats rather than the people that are directly culpable. It's likely one shooter in this case, it looks like. Could have been a conspiracy, could have been multiple. I don't know. We don't have the full evidence. But when you do collective blame, you get collective government expansion and the sword of the state pointed at your neck. Because when, for instance, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, FDR responded by carrying out a collective punishment, not against even Japanese people or the Japanese government, but Japanese Americans, and because of their ancestry, rounded them up and placed them into concentration camps, internment camps. He did that with Italian Americans too, and some German Americans. That is not the way to handle this. You're just asking for a totalitarian system if you want to carry out this as an atrocity by, an entire swath of people. And there will be propagandists calling for this. We've already seen some of it. That is the most dreadful thing that can follow this.
But again, it's just like with the other stuff, but there's nothing but destruction behind that path. Like no matter how tempting it may be, or no matter how good it might feel, we all know on some level that then the darkness wins. Nothing good can come from that. And, I mean, not that any of them are fucking ever listening to me, but if like if I had a message to like those, like the left wingers on TikTok or whatever, who are like celebrating Charlie Kirk's death, I guess my message would be like twofold. So like number one, the first thing I would say to all those people is that, I've seen like, a bunch of these because people have been posting them, and I understand where they are, but I also would like kind of caution people with big audiences for posting that shit. Like you're working up anger, and that really may not be the best thing. I don't think that's what Charlie would have wanted either, by the way. He was real against all that shit. He always wanted like things to calm down and not escalate to like violence. Like the foundational principle of the nation is free speech. He's exercising free speech and gets murdered for it. Maybe that could be a moment like where everybody goes, whoa, hold on. No, that's not who we are. I mean, we get to determine who we are. It's like, let's decide that it's not that.
Yeah, the leftists or liberals that are celebrating this are morally bereft, but I've seen a large number of people that I wouldn't necessarily expect based on their appearance or political proclivities actually weigh in on a good way, saying that this is a vile atrocity. It's a murder that can't be justified in every way. And to be sensible, like Dave said, I think is the right way out of this. So you can fall into the darkness, or you can try to build a better future where we don't get a horrific response by the government to this atrocity. And again, it will be propagandized. We already know about it. You know, he was probably a top 3 conservative influencer, and we cannot let this devolve into additional violence. And again, it would be the easiest thing to do, but Dave is right. You know, he believed in free speech. He championed that. He had debates with people, and, you know, he was still shot. So I can understand the dark forces, but they shouldn't be embraced by us.
And that if there is to be even like the kind of just retribution, let that be like, okay, let's find out who's responsible for this. Let's make sure that person is held accountable. If there's a conspiracy or something like that, let's get to the bottom of it. But let's not, you know, give in to the evil spirits, man. Because it's real easy to like fall into like, oh my God, you look at some of these left-wingers on TikTok celebrating Charlie Kirk died. Fucking war. I'm angry. I'm this. But then you kind of miss the fact that, like, hey, look at all these other guys who are actually saying the right thing. And I saw there was this one video that had, you know, I must have lost it in the timeline, but it was like a left-wing looking type person who was a TikTok video that was going super viral, had like millions and millions of views on it. And they were going like, yeah, what's wrong with all you guys? Like, a human being just got killed. He's got a family. Like, I don't know. You disagree with his ideas? Like, he was there to debate the ideas. What's wrong? And there were a ton of people agreeing with him too. So like, you know, just like keep that in mind too. There's also the beauty in the world, and there's also people kind of doing the right things. And, you know, a truly horrifying event that I really can't think of a parallel to this in my life. Like, you know.
Yeah, there really isn't many, actually. I mean, there have been shootings. They have been shootings of prominent people at the softball game in D.C. And I think 2017, you had the shooting of Gabby Giffords. You had, you know, some others, but there isn't much of a parallel here considering his influence. His influence is mighty high. It's maybe not approaching what the influence of Martin Luther King was in the 60s, but it is considerably high. And, you know, what followed that were a lot of riots, and I just hope that doesn't happen in this case. And you can see the propensity and the propaganda that could unfold in response to this, and I just really hope that the flames of this fire are not fanned by the right, and I really hope that the left doesn't just double down on celebrating this, because that's the quickest way to right-wing reactionary totalitarianism, is to celebrate things like this. You know, that is not what the left wants to see. Let me assure you, if you're a dissident leftist that is, you know, in any way encouraged or, you know, tempted to celebrate this travesty, I promise you this version of the right that you see right now will be about 100 times better than the version of the right that you'll produce by going down that line and continuing on that line and trying to get the right to be provoked to unveiling that before us. We will all suffer for it. So I think there are silver linings here. There are good people responding to this in the proper way, taking a breath, letting rationale, you know, be on the right side here. And there are people handling it terribly. So we'll have to see where this goes. I love Dave's take. I largely agree with it. I want to warn people against fanning the flames toward more violence, giving the state more power to deal with this, etc. Finding the culprit, bringing him to justice, throwing the book at him, and going from there. Learning as much as we can, but not blaming an entire half of the country for this atrocity. But I do want to hear from you. Let me know down below. Is Dave Smith right? Is his advice correct? Is this the best way to react to this? Am I missing anything? Let me know in the comments down below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to Dave Smith too. Proud to call him a friend. Love to see this podcast. And please consider becoming a YouTube member. If you click the join button below, you can help support my channel, and in return, I'll give you access to all of my videos before they go live to the general public. And until I see you guys next time, no more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. Catch you in the next one.